On the workshop agenda for today, which is review of the remaining chapters of the comprehensive plan. So wanted to take the opportunity to bring you up to speed with the other chapters. I know Dave focused 2 weeks ago in your workshop really on chapter 3 and chapter 4. Obviously, those are the most land use intensive chapters, but did want to talk about chapter 5 today and some of the other elements of the plan. As you guys, I think, know, although you might not have it emblazoned on your memory quite like us, but we are targeting the 1st of December to bring this to you in a public hearing format. So wanted to turn it over to Dave. I do think we also wanted to just capture some of the ideas and comments that we've heard thus far in our outreach. As many of you know, and I know a couple of you had the opportunity to attend the public review sessions. Seems like ages ago, but I do believe was just last week, and visit with you a little bit about what we've heard and some of the approach to those comments. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to do a share screen here, and we'll got a few slides I want you to see. Do you see my screen? And can you hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yes to both.
All right. The first off, we wanted to kind of bring you up to speed or up to date on what we've accomplished with our advisory committee, the CPAC. We've had a couple of meetings with them since the last time you as the Planning Commission met, workshopping the comp plan. A lot of comments came in from the folks up north concerned about the land use map and it showing the area in, or between 24 and 25 road as urban densities. So we we had a CPAC meeting and we talked about that. And out of that meeting, there was a recommendation by the CPAC to change the future land use from residential low, which was the last map has it all this area here as rural. As low, residential low. And so the thought was, okay, let's, they've been raising this concern for 10 years now. Perhaps it's not time for urbanization in this area. And so the idea being that perhaps we should pull it out and show it as part of tier 3, which is the map on the right, as rural, or as tier 3. And within the tier 3, in the residential areas, it's all shown on the land use map as rural. And so changing it to rural, then it's 1 unit per 5 acres. And in a sense, as you might recall from our discussion on the tier map, the tier 3 really is that third tier that for the next 10 to 20 years, we don't anticipate the need to grow into. And in a sense, it's an area that's beyond the 20 years, or perhaps sooner if the need is such that our growth rate increases more rapidly. And we need to amend the plan earlier, but it would still be within the urban development boundary, but it would be shown as part of tier 3 and then identified on the land use map as rural. And the thinking being that it's 10 to 20 years out before we really need to rethink that area as far as increasing the intensity or density. The line would be at about 24 and 3/8 road. It's not there. I mean, the alignment of 28 and 3/8. So you got 24 road here, and you got 24 and a half here. It includes the Maverick property that would remain residential low. One of the questions that came out of CPAC was whether or not this is a gravity fed sewer. Was the ability there to gravity feed sewer in H Road, and there is. I verified that with our development engineer. So like the Maverick property can, if they were to extend the sewer to the property, it would all be gravity fed back to a manhole sewer line here at the intersection of 24 and H Road. So the land use map has been changed. It's been sent on to our consultant team, and they're modifying with some of the other public comments we've received, and just a lot of them are little edits in the document that we've missed along the way. They're doing a kind of a final version for Planning Commission consideration. So the one that will be uploaded into GJ Speaks, and the one that you'll be reviewing as part of your December 1st public hearing will show this change in the document on land use map. It'll also show the change on the tier map to show that area as area 3. Any questions on that? Tamara, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't have anything to add. I think that covers it. Like I said, this was, as Dave highlighted, really a direct response to many of the concerns of the North Area Neighborhood Association, as they loosely are calling themselves. And like Dave said, this was workshopped, and Keith can, or others can certainly attest that this was a lengthy discussion at our CPAC about how to manage this area up here and try to address the North Area's concerns, but also try to be cognizant of some potential for growth in this area, kind of taking that balanced approach to both infill redevelopment as well as providing some opportunity for future growth into these areas.
All right, any questions? So we'll move on to the next slide. Another area, and actually this came out of the last Monday's workshop with City Council. City Council, as we were workshopping the comprehensive plan generally with them, the topic came up in regards to the lower downtown area and the amount of mixed use that we're showing in lower downtown. This is the map on the left is the land use map, and everything in brown is mixed use, and everything in red here is commercial, and the purple is industrial. And so you have the Riverside Parkway that runs through here, and Las Colonias Park. And so the council had a couple of questions. One was, is the amount of mixed use shown on the land use map located in the lower downtown area adequate? There was some at least discussion that maybe we needed more. And so the question was, should there be more? And they wanted to send this back to the committee. It's their committee. They're the ones that appointed this 16-member committee as part of this comprehensive plan process. And so they wanted the committee to weigh in and look at it again. The committee's already spent a lot of time in this area through the process, but they wanted one more time to take another fresh look at it. So yesterday, and Keith, of course, is your representative on the committee, and he was there yesterday, and he can chime in at any time here. But we had a real lengthy discussion, and what came out of that was that no, we don't want to change into the well, there was one change, and that's shown here. So this parcel that sits right here, just north of Las Colonias Business Park area of Las Colonias Park, the thought was that this area probably made more sense to be mixed use, where you have some direct correlation and connection with Las Colonias as you kind of extend out beyond the park or the city property. That people, if there's mixed use, meaning that there would be residential and business commercial kinds of uses intermixed, that those residents that might live in that area would be in close proximity then to Las Colonias Park and have a nice natural connection to the park without having, in this case, cross Riverside Parkway to get there. Also, the idea that a lot of the parcels, many of the parcels to the east of this big larger parcel, are pretty cut up into fairly small divided properties of long time under Mesa County regulations, and there's many residences in that area already. And so, as this area around Las Colonias changes with all the stuff that's happening in the park and outside the park, it'll be interesting to see how the market changes that area as well. And so this felt like a better place to add mixed use and to stay and to keep the industrial area that was within the kind of the beltway of the parkway here, keep that intact and not increase the amount of the mixed use. There was some discussion about these lots right along Kimball Avenue here, where you've got the south side being shown as mixed use. And so should we look at changing the north side? And that discussion ended up with kind of the summary of that discussion was that no, we should leave it the industrial. What we have going on there now seems to be working. And in fact, the Forest Service is building a new facility right on the lot I'm pointing to here with the cursor. There's some other roofing type companies that have relatively newer buildings. And then the issue being that these lots are not real deep. And the concern that if you make it mixed use, then you look at the development regulations that might come with that to buffer the new use with an existing industrial to the north might create some site issues for the new development that you're trying to promote mixed use on. Whereas with Kimball Avenue, you've got a street that separates the two uses, permitting, allowing for much better flexibility of not having to worry about as much buffering. So Keith, you want to add anything to that? I know you were pretty involved in that conversation.
You did a pretty good explanation there of it, but I think just for everybody's background on it, the city council, some members of council were, really trying to look at this as, should we be doing something more than just industrial down here? Should we be promoting something other than that? And then the response that came from the CPAC was largely driven by business representatives and economic development representatives and realtors who are really keen on preserving this industrial area. And what seemed to get mixed or maybe missed a little bit is it's always been kind of one or the other. You either are industrial or you're some sort of mixed use or something other than industrial. So to really engage the new urbanism that's happening out there in other cities across our country, and just kind of these new concepts, even for these larger industrial and manufacturing businesses, that they don't want to be just down alone in a yucky part of town that's just industrial and rough. They want more of that mixed use available in there for their employees and for themselves and yada yada. That vision is a tough one to really bring into the conversation and be thoroughly discussed because it's got so many opinions and variables to it. So what this really ended up being was let's inquire about more mixed use from one perspective, and let's make sure we're not, by doing so, butting out the industrial uses that we have. And so it led to that conversation where the yellow arrow is on how does that industrial versus either a commercial or mixed use work. And what's important, I think, to recall, just to add on to Dave's comments, is that when on this future land use map, we designated commercial, the implementing zone districts range from mixed use to business park to industrial office park or IO, and then all the way through the C1 and C2 commercials, as well as a lot of them the mixed use elements that we have. So it would be dangerous to try to pry too hard into this future land use designation, because each of these designations really gave a pretty broad spectrum of it. So that was kind of the where and the how this came together.
Good comments, Keith. This is Sam. In 2010, I served on the County Planning Commission when we passed the current comprehensive plan. And we had these same arguments then. So there are a group of people here in the community who would like to see all industrial gone. And I think we as a commission need to protect that industrial and keep it strong, because we need it for future growth.
Yeah, and we even discussed the elements of what kind of size parcels are new industrial users looking for when they come to town. Do we need large lot or do we need small lot? And so through all that conversation being had and the feedback that came, it was interesting to see the pendulum swing so far from one side to the other at first. And by the time it was said and done, I don't think anybody felt like this was a compromise where, hey, if we both lose a little bit, everybody, that's the best we can do. It seemed like it was more of a, yeah, actually fleshing this out, this makes sense. And so we'll see how city council reacts to it if unless there's additional feedback that we get here.
In addition, Keith and Sam, I agree totally that we need to keep industrial. And one of the areas that has encroachment on it is the industrial out west of northwest and west of Community Hospital. That area is going more around the hospital, more and more mixed use. I think we'll get more housing out in that area. And I think we need to definitely keep this industrial here. But I do like that parcel with the mixed use at the bend of the Riverside Parkway there with the next to the business office development there. Thank you.
And
So
on
just-
that note, the other piece that came into play was even though Riverside Parkway, it felt like this corridor should be buffered by something other than industrial due to the access requirements and the patterns that would or would not be allowed on Riverside Parkway. That was brought up, and this continued to look appropriate because it's not as though you're introducing industrial traffic and that sort of things right onto this road as well. So those are kind of all the elements that were discussed.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I appreciate that. I don't know if you have anything more to add, Tamara, but I just wanted to mention that so that's proposed change will also be in the next draft.
Just to tag in real quick, I think that's a really great place for mixed use. I mean, a perfect transition, if you will, for those neighbors that do live there directly to the east, and then some of the newer, the places over by Edgewater. And so I think that's going to allow for a really good combination and an easy transition, for a lot of the residents as well. I thought.
Tamara, did you have anything more to add on this before we move on? Okay, great. So now the main course, I guess you could say, in regards to your workshop today. Chapter 5, as Tamara had mentioned earlier, is a chapter we haven't revealed to you, so to speak. We haven't talked about it, although obviously it's in the plan, so hopefully you've looked it over. But the chapter contains strategies to help support the implementation of the plan through 2040. It's a tool to guide the City Council strategic plan, city department level strategic plans and work programs, capital improvement planning for the city's budgeting process, and the allocation of staff time and other city services. So it's a pretty important chapter. Obviously, without a good implementation plan, the comprehensive plan is going to suffer and is less likely to see fruition of many of the goals and plan elements that we have in that come to anything great. So the implementation plan includes a matrix. I'm going to pull that up here shortly, but that matrix basically centers on the 11 plan principles in chapter 2. So as you go through the plan, you've probably already noticed that chapter 2 plays a huge role in what we're doing as a community. And so the matrix talks about, has all 11 plan principles that I threw up here on the slide just as a reminder of what they are. Everything from collective identity down to effective and transparent government. And so you'll find that, and this is an earlier draft of the matrix here on the screen, but what it does is it allows us to make sure we're keeping track of everything. So here's an example where plan principle number 2, which is a resilient, diverse economy. The strategy is, well, first the goal. Goal 1 is foster a vibrant and diverse and resilient economy. And then you have strategies A through H listed underneath that. So with that, I think I'm going to jump to the plan document real quick, so we can kind of just run through and let you know what's going on with that. All right. You see the Word document I have up. So what we've had our advisory, the CPAC's been looking at this document. We did get some initial early feedback from some of them in regards to a good idea, which is ranking some of the higher priority, not ranking, but at least having a list of the highest priority actions. Because you'll see that this matrix is 30 pages long. So it's very detailed, probably more detailed than a typical city would do with a comprehensive plan. But I think with the direction we're headed and a department team in the city that's pretty engaged in being part of the implementation of the city's vision established in the comprehensive plan, it makes sense. And so, but you can get lost in 30 pages. And so the thought was by a member of the CPAC was perhaps, have a highest priority actions list that you can identify with, and that those could be maybe the highest priority of all the implementation strategies. And so this first cut here on this particular draft that you have in front of you shows 24 individual strategies. On the first, it goes down to about there. So, Tamara, did you have any thought on how we might want to? I mean, this is a huge document, so maybe we. Definitely, I'm not going to sit here and read it, or you'll all be checking out in about 5 minutes. But any thoughts on which ones you'd like to maybe hit more heavy with them?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I really wanted to just use this time to familiarize yourself with what the matrix is and kind of the general layout. So I think Dave has covered that fairly well. And as Dave noted, we did receive, I think, a couple of really good comments already from our CPAC. Some of them kind of digging into the actual strategies or actions here and providing some edits. So we do anticipate a few changes to this. And also, as Dave said, really trying to distill down the highest priorities for the community. And again, reflecting back on what we've heard over the course of the planning process here and trying to tease out, if you will, those that are really exceptional or really have become a focus for the community during the plan process. So we're in that effort now. So wanted to not show you this as the final draft, but give you an idea of what you'll be seeing. And we anticipate working that week of the 30th with our CPAC to actually comb back through this implementation matrix and then having it available, obviously, to both the Planning Commission, you all, as well as our City Council. Did want to just note too that we don't anticipate having this implementation adopted as part of the plan. And so you may have maybe just caught on a little bit to the timing there, is that obviously the 1st of December is your scheduled hearing. How the plan is written is really provides a recommendation that the city adopt and create an implementation matrix, but it is not part and parcel of the plan. And we do that for 2 reasons. One is that we want you guys to be able to take a look at it, but probably as importantly, if not a little bit more importantly, the City Council really needs to have some time to digest and process this and then figure out how it aligns specifically with their strategic plan. So, and again, the strategic plan, they work on every 2 years, and we actually anticipate them beginning work on that not too long after the new year this year. So believe this will stay essentially in a draft form for the council then to manipulate and, in the best sense of the word, sorry, not in a derogatory way, but really to help prioritize and review this draft that comes to them. So just wanted to talk about that specifically. This will again stay in draft form throughout the hearing process and certainly we'll look to council to ultimately bless the implementation matrix, but want to make sure that the priorities certainly of the CPAC are captured herein, and then we'll get passed on to council for ultimately their use. And maybe a little bit more specifically, just as we talk about that chapter 5 in implementation strategies, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about the actual implementation. So this matrix calls for a couple very specific actions. One that directly involves you, which is really aligning our municipal code, especially the zoning and development code, with the comprehensive plan. So we, after this plan is adopted, we'll really start in 2021 actually scrutinizing our land use and development code to make sure that it works to implement the goals and vision of the comprehensive plan. So that's one area where your work will never be done as planning commissioners as it relates to the comprehensive plan. And we're actually really excited about that. I think that's where a lot of the nuts and bolts of what we do here in wanting to make sure that there is good alignment between the code and furthering the vision of the plan. So that's one element. The other one that I wanted to speak to really is kind of how this implementation in the plan really interfaces with the city council's action. And so this matrix very specifically, explicitly calls out for the city council to align their strategic plan, which they do every 2 years, with this comprehensive plan. And so we are already working very hard with our city council to help them understand how really the comp plan is this overall arching community vision. It has a whole set of implementation to it, but really their 2-year strategic plan is where, again, rubber hits the road, where they really use those priorities to then shape the capital improvement plan, as well as the annual municipal budget for the city. So just wanted to share that with you so you understand kind of that hierarchy. And we're really excited. I think the feedback so far from the city council has been, I think, a broad understanding of kind of that expectation that their work on that 2-year basis really should be drawn on and drawn from the comprehensive plan and essentially what the community has asked us to do. So I'll pause there and maybe see if there's any questions, either generally about the matrix or any of those other topics I just touched on.
So Tamara, this is George here. I wanted to say I really like what you just said. I think a good way of looking at it is the comp plan is in concrete once it's passed for a number of years, and that's what we follow. And the implementation strategy is dependent on the strategic plan of city council. It's also dependent on resources, income of the staff, and budgeting. And so it can't be included in that. It's got to be a little flexible. And so I like it a lot, although the implementation is everything, and like you said, we got to go to work, revise code and whatever. So I really like that. So thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I was going to say thanks for those comments, George. I do want to maybe just note a little bit that the comp plan is certainly, it's a policy tool, right? It guides the policy direction here for the city, and then all of the kind of subsequent actions, the capital plan, for example, the annual budget, all of those implementation actions really should have a direct link back to the comprehensive plan, which we're really excited about. And to your point, I think there certainly is flexibility. We don't know everything about how we might implement this plan today, which is, again, a kind of a underscore or another reason why we don't necessarily want to adopt the matrix as part of the plan, is that it will evolve, and we will learn more about other tools, other best practices, or other ways we might implement and achieve similarly the community's vision or goals. So the matrix is written really in a organizational fashion, as Dave had highlighted, with near-term, mid-term, and long-term strategies, as well as some ongoing strategies. the range really is kind of 3 to 5 years is the high end of that long range. And so obviously our plan is a 10 to 20-year plan. So we don't believe that we can sit here today and predict with any degree of efficacy on what we're going to be doing in 5 or 10 or 20 years down the road. And so to that degree, I think this document does try to create some very clear guidelines and strategies for the shorter term of the life of the plan, and then leaves it really to staff and city council, and perhaps even to this planning commission as we look further down the road. How do we create strategies to continue to move the ball forward to achieve the community's vision? So
I moved the matrix to this page 4 here, which is the start of the main document. And so I think it's, I'm talking as a colorblind guy, but I think this is burnt orange. Is that what I think somebody told me it was? That that darker color are all the 24 high priority strategies that are listed. So that's why they're a different color. So they're in this list up here. I wanted to see kind of how they fall in with the, you got your plan principle, collective identity, for example, is number plan principle 1, goal 1. There's a high priority strategy, and then there's some other strategies that help us meet or achieve our goal 1, which, and then as we achieve goal 1, we're achieving the plan principle, collective identity. So, same thing with plan principle 2. You've got 1C here that's a high priority among others that are other strategies that will help foster a vibrant, diverse, and resilient economy, which is the goal. And that goal falls under plan principle 2, resilient, diverse economy. So that's the way it's laid out. And then of course, you got the strategy, you have the responsible department, in our case, most being the lead, and community partners are going to be huge, and bringing them into the fold there to help with achieving the goal and being successful in the strategy. Timing is Tamara just talked about, and then the resources. Oftentimes it may just be staff time. Other strategies may require actual dollars, and so it might be something that would come out of the city's general fund or grants or some other funding source. So we try to identify those best we can, at least early on.
Dave, I think that's really important, because what you just said is even though they're separate documents, the implementation plan and the comp plan is driven by the 11 principles. They're still connected to the principles.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll have the whole community memorizing those 11 principles before we're all done, hopefully. They'll be able to just recite them, just like the Pledge of Allegiance. Anybody else have any questions or comments about implementation and kind of where we're headed with it all?
I'd like to take the privilege to compliment the staff. This has been a very challenging project for you with COVID, with all the public hearings. I think it's amazing with the technology and what you guys were able to get out of the public. I'm thankful that COVID kind of came in a little later in the first quarter, because we had the initial meetings without COVID to meet with the public, and I thought that was critical. So I compliment all of you, your staff, Tamara, Dave, and I think it's really important we get this done, and that's up to city council, but we got to get this done. I think it will help guide the future planning commissioners, and I think it's a very good doc. To this point, from what I've seen, I think there's been good public input, which is critical, and I think there's really thought going on. I'd also like to compliment our representative Keith for the endless time and hours he's put in on this. So thank you.
All right, thanks. What's next, Tamara? Do we have something else for them?
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you for that, George. Again, very much appreciate that, and certainly pass it on to the rest of the staff team that has also had a very big lift and very big hand in this as well. So appreciate those comments. Did want to just also acknowledge, as Dave said, we had some very successful public review sessions. And I think we talked about those really briefly, but had some good attendance and some good questions that came in. Obviously, the issues concerning the north area, kind of the Appleton area, we've tried to address, and the CPAC certainly spent time contemplating those issues. And by and large, the other ones, we're frankly focused on actual key implementation strategies versus kind of other general components of our plan. So I think we generally heard a lot of support for the broad nature of the plan, as well as the approach specifically in the land use and development sections of the plan. So we were pleased to hear that, and certainly pleased to report that to you all as well. I will say that during COVID, as George just recognized, it has presented its own challenges without being able to have kind of a more broad public review session where people come in and actually walk through in a more traditional setting. So Dave and I continue to reach out to organizations. I think we have 10 virtual meetings just this week alone, where we've really tried to take ownership in getting the word out and really directly asking and engaging folks to hear and learn about the plan. So know that we're not just sitting on our laurels and resting at this point, but really trying to distribute the information and make sure people have the opportunity to understand what the plan is, how it might impact them, and then certainly provide opportunity for comment or feedback before the hearing. So those are going really quite well. We're very pleased about them, and big thanks to Dave, who's been doing the heavy lifting on those presentations. I think that's all we have for comp plan, unless there's other questions from the commission or Chairman Teske, if you've got any questions on comp plan.
Doesn't look like we have any others, Tamara.
Excellent. So let's conclude there. I did have one other topic I wanted to discuss with you all that's fresh out of our city council's meeting last night, and it pertains to how we meet. Because of the heightened COVID issue and surge here in the community, and you guys probably read that we're moving into a stage red here tomorrow from Mesa County Public Health, is the city council has decided that they will no longer provide opportunity for in-person participation in their city council meetings. So that translates into no public comment or no direct public comment in person for their hearings. So they are moving to a predominantly virtual platform for their meetings. They will actually have a couple council members here still at City Hall in person, but public will not be able to attend in that fashion. So I wanted to talk with you all today just about whether you would like to continue to be able to be here kind of at the dais, or whether you would like to transition 100% virtual for some of our forthcoming meetings. I will add too that we are and do have the technology, and as you guys experienced early in the pandemic, is that we certainly are comfortable and able to provide our public the opportunity to engage both through GJ Speaks, which is kind of the pre-public hearing, but also during the actual public hearings that are being held in a virtual setting. So have all the confidence in the world that we'll continue to be able to utilize today's virtual and technological tools to make sure we have and are enabled to receive public comment for the hearing sections of your agendas. So maybe just to simplify, I think the question is do you want to participate 100% virtual from the comforts of your home or office, or is there anybody that would like to be able to actually come in and sit kind of physically at the dais and participate in that realm despite not having the doors open to the public?
Amber, as long as we can do it safely, I still prefer appearing at the dais. I think we need those public meetings.
I would be on board with that as well, and understanding that those who don't want to attend have that choice too, to be remote. But I don't know that we need to mandate a full cease and desist sort of thing. Make it a personal choice.
Can I just get a clarification? If we go in person, is there anybody from the public that's going to be there, or the presenters going to be there, or allowed to be there and make a choice? Or is it just going to be us with all the presenters and the public virtual?
That's a great question. The council, and let me just maybe back up a little bit, is that early on, the direction from the city council was that the planning commission should follow suit to the city council. And there were a couple meetings where we were operating in a more virtual setting and they were not, and it caused a little bit of confusion for people that were coming to comment on and kind of what was available to them. So to specifically your question, Ken, is that the public would not be allowed in, so the general public, and it would likely be that our staff is also presenting virtually, and we ask our applicants also to present virtually. So I want to be very cognizant of our staff's health. There may be a topic, perhaps even the topic such as comp plan, where it may be helpful to have staff in room, but other than that, I think that at least for the near term, we would prefer that our applicants be able to participate remotely as well.
Okay, in that case, I would probably stay home. I wouldn't see any point in getting in the car. But if that changed, and like Keith and Sam pointed out, there was going to be, if the public had an option. So if I thought there was going to be some public, or the presenters were going to be there, I would mask up and come in. So that would be my deciding point.
So I agree with Ken, for me personally, and I think I don't mind personal choice, but I would rather stay home while it's red.
And I would just say, if everybody else is going to be virtual, I'm not sure why we shouldn't also be virtual. So I would agree with Ken as well. I guess I just don't see the point to having us at the dais when everybody else is going to be presenting virtually.
I think it shows unity though, with the commission being at the dais.
I don't know that we have strong preference. I know that appears to be the sentiment on city council as well. I think there's a couple council members that would prefer to sit at the dais and have maybe that imagery, if nothing else, available for the public. But that's certainly not a requirement. They did just pass on first reading last night the ability for them all to participate virtually, should that be the choice. We don't have a strong preference. Our technology can accommodate either a hybrid solution or a full virtual solution, but would really look to maybe you, Chairman and Vice Chair, on if you have a preference for how we operate the Planning Commission.
One more technical question. Is there technology where we can create a background and sit in front of it that looks a little more formal or official than having my big screen TV and my dog running around and stuff like that? It sounds a little silly, but I think that responds to just, kind of looking a little more professional than just in our living rooms and stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that Zoom does offer that feature where you can change the background. You can be in a Denver high-rise if you want. I don't know. We will likely be using a GoToWebinar platform, and I might look to Bella. We're just, I think, coming up to speed a little bit with that webinar platform, and I suspect you can change the background too, but I don't know for certain. Bella, do you know?
Yeah, the GoToWebinar does have that functionality, and we can certainly run a tutorial if we need to.
Yeah, maybe we could look at that, and if there's something that, is a little more professional or suitable looking, those of us that elect to stay home, maybe if we all used that background, something like that, just to present that consistent professional image during these hearings. But they're going to be seeing us virtually wherever we are. So it's not like they're going to be, they're seeing us. But I would definitely participate if there was some sort of a better looking background than what I have, for sure.
And I would suggest that if that's the route that we go, that the city create the backgrounds rather than leaving that up to the planning commissioners. Because I've seen some pretty inappropriate virtual backgrounds, and I would hate to lower the importance of the planning commission by George using an inappropriate background.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, Christian. Thank you.
I just have a question for Commissioner Reese. Why was I singled out? But it's okay. It's always good to keep people guessing.
I can just envision like a dental cleaning pick attacking a cavity and like a whole situation happening.
Brings back bad memories with Marathon Man or Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right.
So Ken, I was thinking,
I appreciate that suggestion, and we will see what we're able to contrive here, but do think that's actually a great idea. Appreciate that comment.
I was just going to say, Ken, if we can't find a good background, maybe you can just get one of those on your TV in the background. You could do the fireplace look, where it's,
Nice.
and then decorate for Christmas early or something and make it holiday-like, right?
Yep.
I would
that would be Plan B.
I would propose we go with a beach ocean scene because we can't go anywhere.
George, you're just substantiating Christian's concerns right there. So I think you're digging yourself a hole there, unfortunately.
There, finally, for some reason, I couldn't jump in. The only concern I have personally as being a new person to the commission, having the ability to maybe discuss or maybe have some lead on how the process goes literally in person. So I'm fine with it being either way. That's just really my only concern about being virtual.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
When is our next scheduled public meeting?
December 1st.
Yep, so December 1st is the first one, and that one will be a little bit different, as you know. One, that's a special meeting, and two, there'll be one item, we think, although we'll know by the end of this week, on consent, and then you'll have the comprehensive plan. So those will be the two items on that meeting. And then the next big one is the 8th of December, and I think you'll have about 3 items on consent, and I think there's about 4 items on the regular agenda for that night.
Okay. Well, it's all changing so fast. I mean, that sounds like it's close, but just think of how much has changed in the last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
some of it we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that I hear 100% consensus, but maybe we'll look to you, Mr. Teskey, on whether we have a setup here, a physical setup for planning commissioners, or whether we're 100% virtual.
Well, it sounded to me like there were those who wanted to appear in person. I agree generally with Christian that if there are going to be commissioners appearing virtually and we have all of our presenters and public comment happening virtually, I'm not sure I see the benefit of appearing from the dais. But if there are those who want to do that, I suppose I don't have any objection to that, we can make that work as well as a part of our sort of virtual environment. Having people appearing from the dais is fine. In fact, the joint workshop with City Council had that functionality in it just earlier this week that I know Keith and I were participating in virtually as well. I think Mayor Wortman from the dais and no one else. So in any event, I think that's fine. We can use that hybrid solution. And for people who want to appear from home, that sounds fine. We can coordinate our backgrounds and the like to maximize that experience for our public. But people who want to go sit in the room, I suppose there's no reason to prohibit that. Did I understand correctly that that's basically what the council is deciding to do as well? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I think it looks like there's maybe 3 council members that are planning on attending in person, despite, again, staff, applicants, public will not be present. So
We would be able to see their faces on the screens in front of us at the dais, correct?
yeah, so you'll be able to see them. The challenge is that you don't get kind of this one-on-one like you do on the tiles here. So you get kind of the whole dais. And there is some zooming in and zooming out. We still have the broadcast booth that's still doing their kind of video work, but it's nowhere near as kind of personal, if you will, as having you up on an individual tile on the screen.
Yeah, at our workshop earlier this week, there was that had that effect, sort of like watching it on TV. If you've ever watched one of our hearings again after it was done, I'm sure all of you do that, right? It's so much fun. But if you've ever done that, it has that same feel where this sort of the screen is cutting to whoever's talking and then back to show the whole dais. And it is a little less personal, I suppose, than a setting like this one, but nonetheless seems to work fine.
That sounds good. So it sounds like there might be a couple of you that want to attend in person. Something that would help us if you could let us know at least maybe a day in advance, a full day in advance, if you're planning on being in person, then we can ensure that we're properly set up here in the auditorium, and we'll try to send out a reminder, but that would be helpful. Otherwise, we'd just have a little bit different setup on how we would prep for that specific meeting. But if you want to let us know, that would be really helpful on how you're preferring to attend. And I will assume that people are attending virtually unless I hear differently from individuals. So. Sounds
like a good plan.
All right. That is all I had for you all today. So I'll turn it back to you, Chairman Teskey, if there's anything you want to address before we conclude.
I didn't have anything on my mind, so we can adjourn.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you the following week.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.